It seems like it's almost impossible to talk about the Switch 2 online without being placed into one of two camps. Either you're seen as a blind hater or a blind fanboy. I'd like to approach this whole thing in a neutral way, discussing both the Switch 2 and Mario Kart World's pros and cons. I'll keep this intro brief so we can get right into the review. I'll start by discussing the Switch 2 launch experience I had, as well as talking about the other games on the console before getting into a more traditional review of Mario Kart World itself. First up, the console. It's pretty cool. I was actually concerned that I wouldn't be able to get one after the pre-orders sold out, but lo and behold, I got one on launch. Okay, it was actually my mom and my brother that got it for me. I was at work and they were running around doing errands and decided to stop into a Walmart to see if they had any. Which they did. Also, yes, I paid my mom back. It's pretty much just a souped up version of the first Switch. An issue I've run into is the battery life being pretty bad in handheld mode, but I don't really play my Switch 1 in handheld mode that much anymore, and the same goes for the Switch 2. Definitely an issue, but it's not a big deal for me. What is a big deal is the fact that Nintendo is bricking systems for people who attempt to hack their Switch 2. That really sucks. On top of that, stores are selling used Switch 2s that are already bricked. Maybe if Stop Killing Games ends up being a success, we'll have to start a new campaign to stop killing consoles, though it seems like the government of Brazil is already beating us to that. But enough about the system. I don't want to talk about the hunk of plastic, I want to talk about the things you play on the hunk of plastic. Let's rapid fire through some games that I played on launch. Not a whole lot of new games were made for the Switch 2 launch, with most of them just being re-releases. One re-release I was curious about was Cyberpunk 2077, and I gotta say, it's pretty impressive. During my play session, I genuinely forgot I was playing on a Nintendo console. This was also a chance for me to use the new mouse controls. They obviously aren't as good as a regular mouse, but they're still pretty cool. Just kidding, I didn't buy a $10 tech demo. I may be stupid with my money, but I'm not that stupid. I love Fast RMX on the Switch 1, so I was excited to have a sequel to it on the Switch 2. For anyone who wants Nintendo to make a new F-Zero, I suggest checking this series out. Not really much to say here. It's two really good games, but now they run better, which, especially for Tears of the Kingdom, is a huge improvement. I wouldn't say I'd pay $10 each for these, but I'll take them as a bonus included with Switch Online. Not a whole lot to say about this either, considering at the time of writing there's only 4 games. I'm not an expert on emulation quality, but all the games seem to run okay to me. Okay, now with that out of the way, Mario Kart World. I'm mixed. It's a game with a lot of good design choices and a bunch of baffling ones as well. I just want to start by saying that the music is absolutely amazing. They crammed over 200 tracks into this game, with new songs and remixes of all kinds, some not even from Mario Kart. The gimmick with this game is the open world, which makes this one of the few Mario Kart games to offer some sort of single-player content. The open world is kinda boring, offering a bunch of copy-pasted missions like collecting blue coins, running a time trial, etc., as well as some collectibles that are all scattered around the map to reward the player with stickers. Cool. I feel like the developers should have locked the new cosmetics that all the characters have behind these challenges. That would have given me more incentive to actually play the open world. Also, having less missions would mean that the devs could focus more on fleshing out each one. I got pretty bored with this mode pretty fast, but I could definitely see how some could have fun with it, especially since some of the missions are more fun than others, like racing on mini replicas of older tracks. But what about the meat and potatoes of Mario Kart? The racing. Yeah, it's fun. Mario Kart's gameplay is just inherently fun, and the new platforming mechanics like rail grinding and wall riding make time trials exciting to practice. But now we have to talk about this game's most controversial element: the intermissions. Instead of driving a normal 3-lap race, most of the time you'll be driving to the next track and racing a single lap. I don't actually hate the intermissions, but I'd much rather just have a 3-lap race. However, I do think there's a place for them. A new mode this game has, Knockout Tour, is probably the thing I've been playing the most, both single player and online. Knockout Tour is just one giant race connecting multiple intermissions together. At the very end of each section, you'll have to place in a certain position or higher if you want to continue. This battle royale type of mode is extremely fun and chaotic. In normal races, there are players that just sit in the back and gather up items for the whole race so that they can steal the top spot near the end. And while you can still do that in Knockout Tour, it's much riskier and encourages players to stick up to the front. But now I need to discuss something that can't be ignored. While I personally don't have an issue with the intermissions, I think the game should have an option for players to just do the 3-lap races, which the game used to have in the form of the random track selection, but Nintendo updated the game to remove it, which is just, for lack of a better word, wrong. It'd be one thing if the 3-lap races just weren't in the game at all and Nintendo wanted this to be the new formula for the series, but they are. Which begs the question, if you don't want us doing the normal races, then why did you even include them in the first place? It just feels like teasing. In summary, Mario Kart World is a fun time, but it has a few issues that hold it back from being great. For me, it's definitely not worth the $80 price point that it's being sold at, so it's a good thing I got it for $50. I'm honestly surprised that this is the game that Nintendo decided to slap the high price point on and make a launch title. Donkey Kong Bonanza seems like it would be the target for that. That game looks incredible, by the way. At the time of recording, I would not recommend getting a Switch 2. I suggest to anyone who's interested in buying it to wait for more big first-party games to release, because as it stands, the Switch 2 really only has Mario Kart, and I don't think that's enough to warrant a purchase. But in the end, this is usually just how new console releases go. If you buy it now, you'll have less games to play than someone who buys it a couple years later. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about Deltarune. Play it! I'm not doing a full review on it right now, but I definitely will when the full game releases. In like 2030 or something. That's all I got for now. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and hit that bell icon to be notified for whenever I make a new video. The next review should be a double review of Karate Kid Legends and Ballerina. So if you're interested in that, or interested in supporting the channel more, then turn notifications and check out my other videos. Okay. That's it. Bye.